Okay, hello. After a lot of technological kind of chaos, we're here and we're live. And so I actually started a presentation and I was about 5 to 8 minutes into it. And Andy and Kevin, my business partner, were telling me, "You're not live." And apparently I had to switch a little YouTube channel. So I apologize for anyone who's shown up and I wasn't there. And if you're watching the recording, sorry about that. And if you've hung with us, thank you very much. Yeah, we finally got it figured out, or I got it figured out. Okay. Whew. I need to take a deep breath now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just wanted to say hello to let you know that there is this little chat box off to the side where you can actually say hello. Let us know where you're from, who you are, anything you'd like to know about the presentation today. And I have that little box off to the side because I will answer any and all questions you have at the end of the webinar. But I want to get started because now I'm a little bit behind because of the technical issues that I had. So I'm going to go straight into the screen share, and I am going to start to share my presentation with you. So today we are talking about three keys to crushing sugar cravings, okay? So my promise to you is at the end of this, you're gonna discover what are the things that are actually triggering your sugar cravings, why, and you're gonna learn that it's not about sugar. So not only am I gonna show you how to curb your sugar cravings, 3 ways specifically, there are more, but I only have time today to really teach you 3 ways. And so at the end of our time together, you're going to learn the 3 things that you should be doing if you want to curb your sugar cravings consistently. So a lot of people can do it through sheer willpower. Some people, very few people, can do it through just diet alone if they have no kind of emotional connection to sugar. But most people need these 3 things to not only get off of sugar, but stay off of sugar. Because some people can do it for a day, a week, a month, or even a year. But unless you're actually doing these things, it's only a matter of time before you relapse. So I don't want you to relapse. I want you to actually experience sweet freedom for a long period of time. And so let's get started. I also want to let you know that I've got an awesome bonus that I've just actually created. Our team has actually created, that if you stay with me to the end, I would love to be able to gift that to you. That bonus is really something that I'm super proud of, and I really do feel will actually make the difference for us. So if you stay until the end and decide to go on this sweet freedom journey with me, I'm going to give you the opportunity to get your hands on a special bonus I just added to my brand new program. So I've revamped the whole program that we started with 2 years ago. And I'll give you the exciting details about this at the end of our time together. So in order for you to get the most out of this next hour that we have together, I really want you to get focused. So that means no distractions. So literally put your phone on airplane mode. I would actually go, unless of course you're watching this on your phone. But to really get no distractions, turn off bells and things like that. If you need to get into a room, grab your glass of water and just really get present and stay focused for the next hour that we have together. And here's the big reason why. I want you to feel that the time we've spent today is time well spent. I've been on many webinars and I've been multitasking and all those kinds of things. And it really doesn't allow you to actually get the full experience. So if you can do this, I promise your time with me will be valuable and it will make a shift in your relationship with sugar. So for many of you might already be aware of my journey around sugar. But the thing I truly believe is that we are an addictive species. And from birth, we are actually fed an addictive substance, even in nature. So mother's milk is highly addictive. It has opiates in it. Not only does it provide natural nourishment for the child to actually nourish it and make it, stay alive, make the child stay alive, but there are opiates in all mother's milk that keeps the child addicted. So it's actually suckling and getting the nutrients it needs. So it's not just hunger cues and nourishment cues, but there's actually addiction cues. So we're addicts from birth. Now, if you're like I was and you were fed baby formula as a baby, you're probably even more susceptible to the powers of sugar or things that create those sugar-like rushes. In the 60s, Baby formula was made with refined sugars, oils, salts, grains, chemicals. It had nowhere near the complexity, and even today has nowhere near the complexity of natural mother's milk that has over 300 unique compounds that we have never been able to truly replicate, in man-made forms. So what that can do is that kind of cycle of not getting quite nourished enough and giving you the nutrients to develop all parts of, your body and being can set you in a place of deficit and make you much more susceptible for sugar addiction. And that's what happened to me. I was a sickly baby. Of the 4 children, I was the only one that was bottle fed from birth, and it created all kinds of health complications in my body. And I was a cranky baby. I cried a lot. I'm glad to let you know that has changed. So, and what that did was it left me as a child who was very serious. Now, some of you might be, some of our woo-woo friends might think that I came into this world already serious, and that's a very distinct possibility, but I can promise you that sugar did not help. And so if you can relate to this, or you can relate to this possibly in your children, seeing this effects in them, you know that sugar can have a big impact on the moods of children. And for me, it impacted my life until I really actually got sugar under control. And still to this day, if I have sugar, I'm much more aware of it so I can actually deal with it, but it still does impact me. And at my worst, I was actually wolfing down a liter of ice cream for breakfast, and then polishing off a chocolate cake during the day, and then sitting down to sometimes a 3-course meal with wines and alcohol and dessert with my husband. I was married at the time. And I was twice my present size. So I like to joke and say not 10'4", but I haven't had a serious height reduction. But I went from a size 16 to a size 8, which I am presently. And at 5'2", that's a dramatic reduction. But one of the biggest things I noticed more than anything else, okay, I've got another note from Andy. So the webinar in black can't see the presentation. The screen is black. Okay, so I don't know why that's happening. So I'm just gonna, present it. I see. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm getting back to it. Appreciate. Andy, what would I do without Andy? Oh my goodness, I might eat a lot of sugar. Kidding. Okay, so if you can relate to any of this, maybe you haven't had sugar addiction where you've actually got the weight gain, but maybe you have, a level of sugar addiction that's interfering with your life. So this webinar is just for you if you can relate to some of this, if you know that you're consuming too much sugar, if you're feeling that maybe sugar is stronger than you, right? And if you know that your life would be better without sugar in your life and with that sugar piece handled. And with that food piece handled, because although we specialize in sugar at Sweet Freedom, it really is about all foods that I consider the lethal recipe. And the lethal recipe for me is anything that's had all the nutrients processed out that turns it into a highly addictive substance. So sugars, grains, salts, oils, chemicals, and fats, salts and sugars, all of those are highly processed like we process drugs, which I'm going to talk about. And so I went on to lose the weight, as you can see in the picture on the right. And I then went on to do some pretty interesting things in life. Wasn't so happy before. And I went on to positions of influence. So I wrote for great magazines. I was featured in magazines. I spoke at TEDx in Tokyo 10 years ago. That's over 10 years ago now. I wrote columns for magazines. I was featured on television around Australia and here in Canada when I would come back to visit. But I had a dirty little secret. So even though I had gone on to write this book called Return to Food, The Life-Changing Anti-Diet, which literally thousands of people have told me that it has actually made an impact and changed their lives, the philosophies in this, that I had this dirty little secret that I was still a sugar addict. So I wasn't freebasing the donuts in the morning and, I wasn't shooting up with ice cream for breakfast or, just eating everything in sight until I went into a sugar coma at night. I wasn't that kind of sugar addict, but I was just wanting it. So I just have one croissant here, one piece of pizza here, one bag of chips here, one piece of cake, a glass of wine, a coffee with sugar in it, a croissant at the farmer's market, until over the period of a week, I had way more sugar in my body than it could adequately and happily handle. So I still had a sugar problem. And it wasn't until I almost lost my mom. She was nursing her sister through the last very painful stages of cancer where no medications were actually touching on her pain. And so my mother got to see one of her, closest relatives and best friends in life die a very painful death. And in order to help her kind of work through that situation, she used sugar as a coping mechanism. So Andy's just said my screen's gone black again, but what I can see, as far as I can see in the presentation, is that actually all going. So I don't know what's happening there, but it does say that I'm sharing. So I'm just going to go back to ask Andy, tell Andy what's going on. It's yeah, so apologies. Okay, I can't. Okay, Andy's saying not to put it full screen. So this didn't happen last week. So I'm not sure what to do here. Let's just try here, slide only. Hmm. I don't know what to do. Okay, let's go here. Presenters notes so we can get more. There we go here. So my apologies for all of this, guys. This didn't happen last week. Not sure what to do about it, but I apologize. Okay, so my mom took a fluoroquine antibiotic at this time because she had pneumonia, and because her immune system was weakened because she had so much sugar in her system, she went into heart, liver, and kidney failure, and we almost lost her. So I was pretty devastated by that. And when I was in the hospital with her, I knew the sugar piece was killing her. And the interesting thing is that she actually lost 50 pounds in the hospital stay that she was in. So for a small woman, a small frame, and 4'11" in height, you can imagine that that was quite a burden on her body. Now, when she was in the hospital, I saw another woman who was in there. I saw lots of people who had the gray complexion of people who were not being nourished well. They're eating lots of food, but they're not getting nourished. And I could see lots of people who were impacted by sugar. In fact, the hospitals serve sugar at every single meal, no matter what ailment you have. They had sugar in every single meal. And there was one woman who was in the hospital bed beside my mom who was admitted because she actually had a stroke because of she had a diabetes-induced stroke, and she broke her leg in the fall. And when she was admitted to the hospital, her family came in and brought her a tray. Okay, so I don't know how to advance the slides here. It's not allowing me to advance the slides. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to do this because I can't figure out how to change it. This woman came into the hospital with her family admitted, and her family brought her a big tray of Tim Hortons donuts. So she was managing her diabetes, as many people do now, with the insulin, thinking they can eat whatever they want just as long as they adjust their insulin. And it was after that that I came back from my trip of spending a month away with my mom in hospital, that I realized that I actually had to do something differently. And 6 months before this, I had a colleague who suggested that I needed to take on a mission. And I was a little bit confused as to what he meant and what he said. And he's the CEO um, of several businesses and is quite successful. And he said, "I think you need to take on sugar." And I remember when he said it, my first thought was, "There's no flipping way I'm ready to give up sugar." And that is the edited, uh, you know, cleaned up version of what my brain was actually thinking. I was so afraid. I had still had this attachment to sugar, so it wasn't ruining my life like it was when I was, eating the ice cream for breakfast. It wasn't totally controlling me, but it was creating problems in my life. And I knew I couldn't lead something like this unless I was actually sugar free, or so I thought. And it wasn't until that ride home where I just thought, I have to do something about this. And I'm not ready to give up sugar, but I know in the process of actually doing this, I will get ready to do it. And so I started to look at my own relationship with sugar and what were the things that actually made a difference for me? And what are the things that I needed to do to step up to actually make sure sugar was not in my life in a way that was actually creating problems? Okay, so I'm trying to make that a little bit smaller. Okay, so I went on to create Sweet Freedom. And we got a team together and we created a summit where we had 24,000 people on it who I interviewed 28 different experts in the world. Many of you have actually come to us because of this summit, or you've actually heard about us through something that we did related to the summit. And we really got major experts around the world to bring attention to sugar, and not just why, but all the different reasons of how to actually quit sugar and end sugar addiction. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit briefly here about the science of sugar cravings, because we all kind of have a thought within our mind that we kind of know that sugar's bad for us, but why is it so bad for us? Well, it turns out that sugar really, the craving piece begins in the gut. Okay, so what we actually put to our lips will actually bring a smile to our face when there's sugar in it. We are naturally, genetically, evolutionary predisposed to loving sugar. And in nature, that was a good thing because sugar was hard to find in nature. We had to work hard for it. So if the body was given a little dopamine hit from a bit of sugar, it made it work harder to go and get that sugar. And that works really well in the balance of nature where sugar's hard to find. Fast forward, a few thousand years to where people are shopping in supermarkets. And now, not only is sugar easy to find, like even in the perimeter in the fruit and vegetable section, but the entire center of the supermarket, it's almost impossible to find things without sugar in it. In fact, 75 to 80% of the items in your supermarket will have sugar in them. So we are predisposed to loving it. We hit a supermarket and it's like, the lottery as far as food's concerned, as far as sugar, in our body. And what this will start to do is it will start to compromise our immune system. Now, 80% of your immune system starts in the gut. But we also know now that sugar is impacting the brain. So they're connected. So although we have a way of actually, getting sugar through our body, we tend to think of it as it goes from from the mouth down through into the stomach and out, out the back end. But it turns out that it impacts every cell in our body, and it also impacts the brain. And so when we have too much sugar and the cells can no longer store it, it moves into fat. And when that's overloaded, when our liver and our pancreas is overloaded, we can actually store lots of glucose, and sugar in our actual cells, in our fat. But beyond that, it will create all kinds of other problems. And now we're seeing that sugar is creating a problem in the brain. And they're calling Alzheimer's diabetes type 3. It takes 20 to 30 years to become evident. And we're seeing now, too, that sugar lights up the dopamine receptors in the brain 8 times more than cocaine. And the reason is that sugar is actually processed in the same way cocaine and heroin and these highly addictive drugs are processed. So if you think about poppy sap in its natural state, it's not highly addictive or toxic. It's mildly, it has opiates in it, just like milk and, coffee and wine, they're mildly addictive. But here's what happens. When you start to remove all the macro micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, fats, fibers, phytochemicals, and you end up with a pure white substance like heroin, or if you take coca leaves and turn it into cocaine, you end up with something that's highly addictive and toxic, particularly in large amounts in the body, or consistent amounts over a long period of time. So if you look at fresh cane juice in its natural state, it's not highly addictive. In fact, I struggle to finish a cup. And when I ask people, other people who have had a glass of sugar cane, they also struggle. Okay, so when we take cane juice and we boil it down into a thick syrup and we start to use chemicals and heat processes and toxic agents to actually remove all those macro and micronutrients, the vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals, we end up with a pure white substance, which is highly addictive and toxic, particularly in consistent larger doses than the body can handle over a sustained period of time. And so what's happening is the average body can cope with about a tablespoon of sugar throughout its body and still function well. But if we have more than a tablespoon, we start to get this thing that happens in our body where there's just too much sugar for the pancreas and the liver and the body to process. And so it not only gets stored as excess fat, it creates all kinds of other problems. And in fact, we're seeing now the average person the average North American has about 17 tablespoons of sugar in their body throughout the day. And that's just way too much. And so now we're seeing the results of that. And here's a list of 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health by Dr. Nancy Appleton. So there's over 146 conditions and diseases that are directly related to sugar consumption. And so this is the result and the cost. It costs us in our wallet. So just, sugar loaded morning pick me up coffee and a muffin can add up to over $4,000 a year. So that's, an expense for something that's adding no value nutritionally to our bodies. That's costing us. It's also costing us because beyond brain fog or long-term, sugar use, it leads to inflammation of the brain, and that it also feeds bad bacteria causing all kinds of gastrointestinal upset. And then it wreaks havoc on your hormones and keeps you in this constant state of imbalance. And it also creates this inflammation in all different parts of your body beyond the brain. And the other thing is because, sugar's flooding our guts and our stomachs are not used to not only having that much sugar, but most of the sugars we're having are highly refined, like the cocaine and heroin of the food world, right? So it's really going to dampen your immune system and you're going to get sick more often than not. And then there's the other piece of sugar. The cost is where it can actually create unstable mood swings and give you highs and lows and even lower lows, as I certainly experienced. When I was at my worst sugar addiction, depression was the hardest thing to actually cope and handle. And if I'm starting to feel a little bit down nowadays, and I take a very serious look at what I've been eating to make sure that there's nothing in the lethal recipe that I talk about, because that will flatten me with depression. And I know from working with many, many people over the years that this is a common denominator. And if you have any one of these diseases or conditions, the best thing you can do, the first thing you can do is just get sugar out of your body. Okay, so, and all of these things can really dampen your spirit, which can impact relationships. And so we want to really help you get over that. One of the illustrations I did for Return to Food says, addiction is your body telling you you're not listening to your soul. So this is another little piece I'm going to allude to and talk about a little bit later on in the presentation. But what I want you to do for the next period of time that we're together, I don't want you to allow what you can't do to interfere with what you can do. Because sometimes when we're embarking on a new endeavor, something that's really important to us, there's something called resistance that comes up. Stephen Pressfield talks about this in The War of Art. And he basically shows us that we will go through all kinds of justifications and do all kinds of things to actually get out of doing things that are meaningful when we're experiencing resistance. So when you're thinking about what I'm talking about over the next bit of time, just really think to yourself, what is it from this information that I can do? So what can I do versus what I can't do? Okay. And here's the other piece that you may have already understood around sugar. If you are obsessed with sugar, if you're like me and you might be having your sugary treat and wondering what was the next sugary treat you're going to have so that you don't actually go very far in between treats, you're probably in the stage of obsession. And the great thing about being on this webinar right now is that you are going to start to come into a place of awareness. Okay. And so obsession and awareness cannot coexist. So by actually being present to this information today, you stand um, far more of a chance of beating sugar addiction than if you're just going to tackle it on your own and think that if you just don't eat this and eat this, that you're going to be fine. It's so much more than that. And experts in this space know that, but it's not so easy to kind of sell that to people. So Janine Roth is a great expert on food addiction, and she's responsible for this quote. And I can tell you many times of working with people is once we start to get them into the awareness phase of how much sugar they're having, when they're having their sugar, why they're having their sugar, it makes a big difference. So let's get on to the 3 tactics I want to share with you. So the craving curbing tactic, that's number 3 in the lineup of them, is to get nourished. Now, it may seem really obvious, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into this, but getting nourished is trickier and trickier nowadays with so much nutritional confusion and so much information that really is contradicting one another. So I have developed, a way of helping people understand what it is they're meant to be eating. I wrote about this in Return to Food. It's basically a philosophical approach to food, understanding how we're meant to eat as the human species. And also, there's species-specific ways that we are actually meant to be eating. So if we're trying to eat foods that might be relegated to another species that we have adapted as humans to be able to eat, and we're not eating the right amounts of the foods that we are meant to eat as the human species, it can create imbalances in our body, and it can actually create a low level of discomfort in our body where we don't feel so good, and we're often reaching for sugar to make ourselves feel good. So to understand how it is we're actually meant to eat as the human species, I get people to just start by thinking slow. Okay. The acronym SLOW came to me by Professor Mark Cohen in Australia, who this was his way of actually saying it, which I think is absolutely perfect. You want seasonal, local, organic, and whole foods with every single meal. So as you start to nourish yourself, you are going to crowd out sugar. That's how we're going to start it. When we work with people in the 8-week online program, I don't get you to give up sugar until the 5th week. We give you 4 weeks to get nourished. And I'm going to talk about the levels and layers of the nourishment a bit later. But one of the best and easiest ways you can start to eat slow is get yourself to a farmer's market or a market that sells whole foods and organic foods. And you want organic foods for 2 reasons. One, you're going to get more nutrients from it. You don't require as much to actually satiate you because there are more nutrients in organic foods just because of the nature of how they're actually grown and how a plant actually takes nutrients up into itself and that you in turn eat. So you really want to get to organic and the whole foods because that's going to give you the most amount of nutrients. Now, the other thing you're going to want to do is to eat in the hierarchy of nature. So we have sugar in the form of fruit everywhere. It's in fruit juices, it's in roll-ups, it's everywhere. And people are often thinking, well, if it's natural, it's okay. Shouldn't I have free reign of it? But no, even if it's natural, although it's far superior to the refined versions of it, there are still amounts that if we eat more than that, it will create imbalance in the body. So nature tells us what to eat and the quantities to eat it and by how easily it's attained in nature. So that which is most abundant, we're meant to have most of. If it's harder to obtain in nature, we require less of it and we're given stronger physiological desires to actually work harder for it. And we work off the corresponding energy, working off to actually get the food than it actually takes to digest it. So we're always in nature in a slight deficit for most of the year. There are times where we fast, there are times where we feast, but overall, in most long living natural cultures, there's just a little slight deficit of where they're not actually overeating like we're eating as a species today. And the third category is in what I call in nature's principles. If you cannot get into nature, not only is it harmful to the body, it's harmful to the planet. And I also say in Return to Food, what's good for the body is good for the planet, and what's good for the planet is good for you. So really important to understand that there is a way that we're meant to eat in nature, and it communicates to us. And so just to give you a little example of that, if most people in North America were given a choice between an omelet or chicken for dinner, when I poll an audience, and I get the vegetarians to not participate for this one, what you'll find is most people, in fact, a strong percentage will choose chicken. Like 90% of the audience will choose chicken. Given the same choice in nature, and they have to go out and get an egg or catch, kill, pluck, disembowel, bleed, and prepare chicken, most people become vegetarians. But even the most hardened carnivore will think twice about choosing, to consume a chicken in one night or two, however, long it's going to last, versus a source of eggs ongoing. So this is just some of the philosophies that I teach in Return to Food in the Sweet Freedom program that help you understand how we're meant to actually be eating as the human species. And when we start to nourish ourselves as human species is actually optimally set for, it's going to create this sense of nourishment in your body that gives you this beautiful, deeply grounded feeling. That means that you're not going to actually be at the whims of sugar. You're going to feel grounded. Okay. So curbing tactic number 2, just say no to drugs. Okay, now this may seem absolutely obvious, but as I showed you that slide before, when we take the poppy sap and we remove all the macro and micronutrients, we end up with heroin, highly toxic and addictive. So the fresh cane juice and all things that sugars come from, so that can be beets and potatoes and corn nowadays, when we take it from its natural state and in many cases genetically modify it, we change the way the body can actually relate to it. And then if we actually process and remove all those macro and micronutrients, right, we end up with a substance like those addictive substances light up the brain's dopamine receptors. Okay, it's highly toxic over a period of time, and it's everywhere, and it's legal, and it's cheap, and it's hard to avoid, and it's probably one of the reasons that you're here. So we need to actually start to say no to the sugars that you cannot make in nature. So as you're transitioning into a sweet freedom lifestyle, what we want you to do is to upgrade your sweet choices. So you're going to have sugars that aren't as processed, that are as close to nature as you can get. Okay, so that's the first thing, is that you can have, and in Sweet Freedom we teach you, there's so many recipes and so many ways to take your favorite treats and then make them more and adapt them so that they're Sweet Freedom approved, so that they're not having this massively negative impact on your body. Okay, so we truly believe that you don't have to give up sweet things to end sugar addiction. There's really only 5% of the population who have an absolute zero tolerance to sugar. And that group, for that very small percentage, will have a sugar-free life if they want to be happy. Some people can actually manage and navigate it, but most people, who are in that 5% really have to have zero tolerance. But for the rest of us, for most of us, and even if you've had sugar addiction for a long period of time, you might need to wean yourself off of it, and then you have your 30 days of being completely sugar-free on our online program. And then you get to decide what it is you want for your body and how you want to live. And you're incredibly supported through the process with not just people, but resources. So we have many beautiful recipes that you can actually choose from. We show you how you can actually eat seasonally, locally, organically, and whole, and all the amazing, beautiful options that nature has for us. And so you don't have to go 100% without sugar to actually manage your sugar addiction and cravings. But what happens is you get into this place where you can actually walk past the buffet table. You can walk into your favorite cafe where the sweets cabinet would literally just have you on edge to think of not having something, feeling deprived. And you can walk past it and just feel nothing and feel no pull towards you. That it's just super easy to kind of say no to drugs and say no to sugar. And what we are actually going to teach you also is to upgrade and refine your palate so that those sugary treats, the ones that have those really strong drug-like reactions in your brain and your body, they just have no appeal to you. So even if it's natural, keep this in mind. It's really important to know that just because it's fruit and it has macro and micronutrients and vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals, even even those natural things with those powerful elements in it, if you have too much of them, it will lead to an imbalance in your body. So you are going to have to manage that. Okay, but we're very good and very helpful in helping you understand that. So this other piece of nourishment of what I actually want to share to you is nourishment is not just in the food. Okay, so as far as getting nourished, we believe that sugar addiction comes from a place of mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical malnourishment and toxicity. And what I found was when I started to work with clients and I got them to stop eating sugar and start to eating healthy food, they had a certain level of success. So it was like, don't eat this instead. They had a certain level of success. Then when I got them into the kitchen cooking, they had another level of success, and that was really good. And then when I got them to actually start to think food in a natural way, in the philosophies that I taught based on science and nature and how the healthiest cultures have lived for the longest periods of time, they had another level of success. But still, there was something I knew, there was something else a place I needed to go to and understand. And it was really where I developed this concept of hypernourishment based on what I had taken years, we're talking decades, to actually figure out and do. Is I started to realize is that within myself, and then when I started to work with clients, I could see it happening as well, is that there were things that were mentally toxic in my life, or at the very least, I was malnourished. So I wasn't getting the right kind of nourishment mentally. And that happened if I looked at my emotional life and my spiritual life, and it just manifested in the physical. So we teach people how to actually nourish themselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, as well as getting rid of the things that are actually toxic in those areas. And this is really important if you want to actually stay and get off of sugar. Super important. And there's lots of ways that you can actually do this through meditation, journaling, emotional freedom technique, serotonin producing movement. So you don't have to go and kill yourself at a gym, just as long as you're moving your body, gardening, yoga, and even gentle, really lovely ways that you can actually move your body and feel good. Okay, so there's other things too. We're big believers of meaning and purpose. We are a social species. We are designed to not just live together and eat together, but to be interdependent on one another. And so it's really important to have those things in there, as well as hobbies and interests and passions that make you feel alive. That's one of the best ways you can actually nourish your spirit, is to really do the things that you're curious about, that when you're doing them, time gets lost. These are really important parts of actually nourishing yourself as the whole being. That's why at Sweet Freedom, we believe that we have the world's most holistic sugar cessation program, is because we work on all the areas that impact sugar addiction and the things that actually create discomfort and cognitive dissonance in your life, so that you're not reaching for sugar. We're actually teaching you how to nourish yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, as well as getting the toxicity out. And so things like communication, developing your communication skills, and breath work, it really all kind of starts with there. These are all super important tools for crushing your sugar cravings, because it's not just our physiology that becomes dependent on sugar. We get an emotional dependence on the dopamine hit that we get from sugar, and it can actually keep us as a hostage to sugar and feeling like sugar's stronger than us. But as we start to work through these things with the techniques and tools we give you, it's easy to start to release the hold that sugar has on you. So the number one craving curbing tactic that I find is the thing that not just keeps people from stopping having the sugar, but keeps them off of sugar. And this is consistently shown that when people get into community, they are much more likely to stick to a program and to actually do the work. And so we have many people who have done our Sweet Freedom program 5 and 6 times. And it's why once you sign up for the program, you're grandfathered into that program, because we want to be here for you long term. This is not a quick fix program. Hopefully, if you're here, you might be looking for some tips that will kind of get you started to curb your cravings. But maybe by now you're getting a hint and intuition that this is not a quick fix thing that's going to happen in anyone's life. And even if you have experienced, the threat of terminal diagnosis or chronic pain, unless you actually do the deeper meaning work, the three pieces that I'm just talking about here and the other pieces, you're much more likely to relapse once the diagnosis is no longer relevant or once the chronic pain is gone. So, getting into community is one of those things that keeps you going when sometimes you don't have the juice yourself. And it's one of the most powerful tactics for actually ending addiction. The latest research is showing that disconnection is one of the biggest causes of addiction, more than our physiology and our genetics. That being disconnected from ourselves, our bodies, our environment, our communities is a big thing that actually gets people to um, engage in addictive behaviors and substances and practices. Okay. So, a wonderful African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go farther, go together. And so we are big believers about the power of going together and the power of actually being on the same page in the program. This is some pictures of past students who have actually I've worked with, and people I can see in this picture who are still on their path, their version of sweet freedom. One of the people that came to us, it was at the beginning of last year, was a beautiful woman named Christina Hennig. And Christina had struggled with food and sugar her whole life. She said, I tried more nutritional approaches than I can even remember, including some really wacky ones. And she's tried to quit sugar cold turkey several times. She's a smart woman. She's a therapist. And she said, I studied the subject and done a lot of emotional work around it. And even with all that, I was still at sugar's mercy. And I confess, I started the Sweet Freedom online program with more reservations than enthusiasm. But I knew it had at least one thing I've never had in my earlier attempts at quitting, and that was community, because research shows that community is a key factor for continued success. And so I thought, even if I get nothing else, I'll get that. Yet, she says, I ended up getting so much more. And it really is because of the holistic approach. It's the fact that we are in community, we're there with you, we are your cheerleaders. And what I know, what I'm absolutely certain of, and it's greater than any year doubt, is that with this support, with these tools, you can actually quit sugar. Your sugar cravings will be a thing of the past, and you can actually come out of this on the other side saying, absolutely, I'm stronger than sugar. And I'm not a big advocate of before and after pictures because, well, there's many reasons that happen in that. So I don't actually encourage people to take a picture before unless it's what they really want. But Christina did, and you can see here she's 50 pounds lighter than before she started the program. And you can see a level of happiness in her eyes nowadays that is not present in those former pictures. And it's no wonder, it's super hard to be in a body that is ravaged by sugar. And I often like to say that you can be just as unhealthy in a thin body as an overweight body, because there's a lot of people who go unidentified with sugar addiction because they're fit and they're thin and they work out a lot, and people don't think they have a problem with sugar, but you can still, no matter how energetic you are, have too much sugar in your body that will create imbalance and it will create problems. So, our program really is about a very loving approach. It's non judgmental, it's non toxic. It's really about loving yourself into a healthier and happier way of being. And as you do this, as you nourish your body, as you hypernourish your body, as you start to upgrade your sweet choices and develop this cleaner palate, this thinning palate, as I used to call it in the late 90s. I released a CD and a cassette. That's how old it was, that I called the thinning palate. But as you develop your palate and it gets better, you're going to find that you are stronger than sugar. And so our approach is super loving. We add a lot of vitamin L to our programs. And I believe that how we eat as the human species is as powerful as what we're eating. So we are a social species. There's species-specific ways of eating in the foods that we eat, but there's also the how. And humans are meant to eat together. There's a wonderful French proverb that says, where love sets the table, food tastes its best. And so Perhaps you're in the position right now where you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I know I've got an issue with sugar. I know all of those things will work. I don't necessarily know how to implement them or what to do, but there might be some reservations in getting started. And I want you to know that I totally understand. I understand what it's like. When I first started to create Sweet Freedom, I was not ready. And yet I've come a long way in the last 2 years in developing my relationship with sugar, which has gone to kind of the next evolution and relationship. And as I alluded to before, this is not a zero tolerance program. Unless you're in that 5% where you know you absolutely cannot have any sugar, we show you ways of actually having beautiful, sweet things in your life without, having to totally give that side up, that there's ways of actually managing and doing it. But we do like to also show you what it feels like to be in a body that's absolutely sugar free, and it is amazing. So, as I mentioned before, Stephen Pressfield, he has this wonderful expression, begin before you're ready. So if there's any part of your intuition that is inside you saying, yeah, I know my life would be better with this sugar piece handled. I know that my life would be better if I'm stronger than sugar and I'm not at the whim of those visual cues at buffets and feeling like I'm missing out, or, binging at night or first thing in the morning whenever you feel anxiety reaching for the sugar. If you are in a position where you want to cut your sugar cravings so you can sleep better, so you can look and feel better, and that can happen in as little as 7 days. If you want to increase your immunity to disease so you know that you're going to be around a lot longer and better, have better quality life for a long period of time. And even if it's just immediate, if tomorrow morning you want to wake up and have tons of energy and feel good about what it is you're doing in life, right? And so you can actually think clearly and execute on those dreams and things you want to do in life far more effectively when your memory improves, and it certainly does without sugar, to not have any of those crazy mood swings. And also, if you know that you've been eating sugar for a long period of time and it's depleted your system, because sugar will draw out nutrients from the body. So if you're ready to actually have those things, we would love to help you. So just to remind you, I have a wonderful, beautiful bonus that I've created especially for this, that we are newly producing for the Sweet Freedom program. And I've got a bonus for anyone who's actually stayed online. Yeah, I'd just like to let you know about our 8-week online program. It really is a game changer and a life changer for many people. Some people have actually said it literally saved their life, and many others have just talked about how their joy factor in life is at a whole new level because of this. So what we do is we have several stages to the program. So we have a 7-day Eat Less Sugar challenge, and I'm going to tell you about how to get that for free if you haven't already got it by the end of the session. But we include this with our 21-day sugar-free challenge book. So if you look at the Sweet Freedom program, it's kind of 3 phases. The first is to spend 7 days to eat less sugar. And then we get you to take a 21-day challenge where we've got an ebook for you, beautifully designed and written ebook. That's 50 recipes that help curb sugar cravings. There's weekly meal plans and shopping lists and 4 levels of difficulty for all levels of sugar addiction, no matter where you are. And obviously, lots of tips and strategies to help you manage your sugar cravings. So we're actually going to start you out with that and gift you that when you join the Sweet Freedom program. And I do want to mention that we do have 50 delicious and nutritious, actually we have more than that, including on the website and in the different ebook offerings we have. We have over 50. But you really only have to learn 7 to master this program and to master your relationship with food. So there's heaps of variety for those you actually want and like it, but I show you 7 recipes that you can have. And if you just vary the ingredients with the seasons, it will go a long way to not having to remember 50 recipes. There's 4 levels of difficulty when we go through the 21-day challenge that help you self-identify where you are and take an approach based on that. And we have beautiful meal plans and shopping lists for you. And you're going to learn how to deal with those sugar cravings. So we've got tips and tools and strategies that help you manage your sugar addiction, particularly in those tough moments when you're triggered. We teach you what to do when the sugar cravings get too much, how to start tackling the mental, emotional, spiritual aspects of sugar addiction. So you can also spot and avoid all the hidden sugars out there that might set you off without you even knowing it. We also have this 7-day challenge that we have a Facebook group that you can actually become part of and engage in. And we also have a fantastic Return to Food 7-day challenge. So this is where you get the food philosophy piece from my book. So if you haven't already read or purchased my book, this 7-day challenge is an online program that really helps you understand the philosophies in the book, but also the real life strategies that make that book come to life. So there are recordings of videos, there's recipes, there's a recording of a Google Hangout that I did each of the 7 days. There's a private Facebook group, which is part of the 21-day challenge. There's custom meditation and relaxation audios, and there's recipes and all kinds of information in this 7-day challenge. And when I first launched this to my food coaches, they could not believe what was offered in the 7-day challenge alone. So in the Sweet Freedom online program, we also have bonuses of a 30-day challenge mentoring and video coaching program. So when you get to your 5th week, where we get you ready to take that leap and give up sugar, we are going to get you to log in each day and look at this video that will give you specific mentoring and coaching for that day of going through the 30-day challenge. And many people have commented on how they can't believe how appropriate it is for the day that they're actually going through. And then this is the live coaching bonus where I do Zoom sessions with you. So I go in and I believe working in groups is way more powerful than one-on-one. But I get you into the groups. We're on Zoom, and each week we get to do hot seats. We get to do Q&A. I go over certain aspects of the material. I add value and stories, and information and some personal sharings that I don't necessarily do in the actual 8-week online content. But it's really there and designed to help you to really make this information come alive. And so you're not alone in this, that you've got expert mentoring in this. And also we have the live Facebook group. So this is where you have that community and connection. So I'm into that group each day. You actually can share recipes. You can ask for help. You can offer support to other people, because teaching and offering support is a great way of cementing the learning. We do have one big rule in this group, and that is that it's a kindness zone. And so if you wouldn't dream of saying it to someone else, we don't want you to even say it to yourself. So we really are here to support one another, to love one another, to evolve and grow to our highest potential. And we don't believe that not being kind has any place in that. So you get to share your experiences. You become part of this wonderful community. You can find accountability partners, receive and provide support. And you get early access to the latest Sweet Freedom offerings that we have. We also have lifestyle guides, so things to help you going shopping, to another guide to find the secret hidden sugars in things. Also a guide when you're eating out, what are some of the Sweet Freedom choices you can make, and how to set up your kitchen, to do a kitchen audit, to get rid of the stuff that's really killing you, and showing you how to upgrade those choices. And so you're not triggered by these massive sugar impulses each time you open the pantry door. And for most people who have been struggling with sugar for most of their lives, there's going to be some level of candida and overgrowth of candida. So we've got a candida guide that helps you with that. We've also got another bonus where we have experts that were featured on the summit. I've taken some of the best reviewed interviews from that summit, the interviews where I got the best feedback, and I put them into the program because they have excellent information and motivation to, as we say, keep on the Sweet Freedom train. So if you start to look at the 8-week online program that we have, you start to look at the value that it actually creates in people's lives, and the surgeries that it saves, the illness diagnoses, the prescriptions that it saves, even the $4,000 a year that it saves just in not having that sugary drink and muffin to start your day. there's a huge incentive to actually get on board the Sweet Freedom Train and to try this program. And I can honestly say without a shadow of a doubt, Andy's listening, my business partner's listening, as I'm speaking right now. I have been pressured to offer this information and this coaching at $10,000 a person. And if I was definitely doing it for you one-on-one, I'd be charging more than that. If you come and hire me to do a lifestyle makeover on your weekend, where it includes a kitchen audit and many of the things that I share here and are in the program, that's what it costs, $10,000 for me to come to you for anywhere from 4 days to a week. And so I really want to make sure that this program is available to everyone. And we're in the process of assessing the business right now. And most people, we've had professionals who have come in and looked at the content of what we had, and they said that you can easily sell this program for $9.97, and that it would still be great value for people. And I struggle with my team because I know there are people who have taken Sweet Freedom in the past who wouldn't take it if they had to pay that much. And so I want to make this program available to as many people as possible. I want this information out there, and as long as I can keep it at this price, I will, because I know the difference this is going to make and have a ripple effect in the world. I really believe that the road rages, the behavioral issues on top of all the health issues that have come along with sugar are really robbing us of our best life. And that I know this program's worth way more than this in actual lifestyle changes. But what we're doing today is we're trying to get as many people into this program as we can that will actually impact 1 million people in the world. So we want to get 1 million people sugar free. And we want to be able to do this in a way that helps people inspire other people. So it's a non-judgmental, it's not highly restrictive. It's a really super loving approach. And we're offering this to you today for $447. And this is, in my opinion, one of the best value programs in the world that I've actually seen. So I've seen others. I haven't seen anything anywhere near as holistic as this from someone who really knows about sugar addiction, not just from having, being twice my size and now, I'm half my size, but from someone who studied anthropology, sociology, psychology, and physiology, the human body, and all those things related to, in specifically to sugar addiction and how we as a species are actually meant to eat. So what you actually get when you sign up for the program is you get our 8-week online program where we have audios, videos, PDFs. You have access to the private Facebook group, and you get access to the 8 live Zoom coaching sessions, right? So a coaching session with me for 45 minutes is $240. So you can imagine doing the math on that, the value of it. And I personally think that getting into group is the most powerful way of making shifts than even one-on-one coaching. But I still occasionally will do that for people who believe for some reason that they need that. But I personally believe, and I will tell people this, that the most powerful shifts tend to happen in group. We also have the 30-day challenge. So 5 weeks into the program, week 5, we're going to get you ready so that you're going to start a 30-day sugar-free challenge, and you're going to be excited about it and you're going to enjoy it. You also have access to this private Facebook community, and community is where it happens, where the sticking stays, and where people stay off of sugar. And it's a forgiveness zone in the sense that you can come back to us at any time. There are people who have done Sweet Freedom and gone off of the track because they stopped doing the work. And when they come back into the fold, into the group, they are welcomed with open arms. They're never shamed. They're never made to feel bad for coming back. They're only embraced. And that's so important to me. Got the 5 downloadable guides and the 7 recipes for life ebook series. So if you just do one thing from this program and you get started right away and you start to eat the 7 recipes from the 7 recipes for life ebook, I promise you it is your fastest path to actually getting nourished and having the mental clarity and the emotional groundedness and the being able to sleep better and feel better so that you can actually do the work it takes to get off of sugar for good. There's the 8 bonus talks and interviews with the leading health experts, which I think are absolutely fantastic, and the Return to Food 7-day challenge, as well as the 7-day Eat Less Sugar challenge. And all of that we're offering for you today for lifetime access for $447. And so I feel that this is probably one of the best deals I've ever done. And to make it even sweeter, what we know is that people can feel a little bit intimidated by starting a program and not know where to start. And even though we provide instructions and we'll walk your hand through it, sometimes our mindset could just use a little focus and a boost that will really help it get going. And so, with the Sweet Freedom Life online program, for the first 10 people who book, we're actually offering a private mindset coaching session worth $250. So, this is where you get one on one attention. It's mindset coaching, and it's a fast start session to get you to do what it is you need to do to actually get going with the program and make the most of it. And for the first 10 people who purchase today, I am shipping a Zoodle maker to your door. So you're getting what I believe is the most powerful, most fabulous kitchen tool in the world that's going to help you start to eat those foods that are going to nourish you. And it does happen to grate everything, but it does make the zucchini noodles the best zucchini noodles ever. And that has been chef tested and approved. Okay, so if you're looking to do the 8-week online program, if your intuition is telling you to, you can go to sweetfreedomlife.com/8-week-online-program. Now, I'm going to actually put this into the chat window. So if you want to click onto it, you can just click onto it there on the side. But that is essentially, that program is setting you up for not just getting into the bikini for summer or getting, mental clarity for a new job or what you're going to start, maybe going to school in the fall or any kind of new endeavor that's important to you. We're going to help you along the way to make sure that you reach what we call sweet freedom. So here's another thing that's really important, because you might actually get into the program and find I'm not your teacher. Or there might be anything. We don't know what it is. It can be different for every single person, but we offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. And we also offer, if you choose not to take the money-back guarantee, and maybe you're just not ready for now, you get lifetime access in the price that you've actually committed to. So no matter what we charge for the program in the future, when you join up now, you actually get the program for life for the price that you buy it. We're not going to come back to you and ask you for more money because we've upgraded the program. We just want to keep making it the best program in the world, and we want to reward you for being an early adapter. So there tend to be 3 things that stop people from doing it. And number 1 is time. They think it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take too much of their time. And what we find universally with people is, even though there's food preparation to do, you have to actually start to create your own food and cook your own food. That what you lose in food preparation time, you gain in time that you would have spent previously with brain fog or having terrible moods or, just forgetfulness. So as you start to nourish your body, as you start to release from the hold and the power and the deleterious effects that sugar has on your body, you're going to get time back. You can proceed in faith in that. And a lot of people were thinking, well, there's the money thing. I'm just not sure if I can afford this. And essentially, I want to tell you, if you're having excess sugar in your body, you can't afford not to do this, because it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when something's going to go wrong, because your immune system's compromised and because you've just got too much sugar consistently over a long period of time that's overtaxing your pancreas, your liver, and your cells. And so the money piece, we will actually show you over a period of a year, you can actually save money by doing this, not just in your food bills, but in your pharmaceutical or drugs or hospital and visit bills. And then the other piece is, the fear of doing it alone. And I want you to know that is the power and the strength of this course, is that you're not alone. You can choose to do a self-guided version of this, and there are people who do that, and I'm keen for them to actually get started and do that rather than not do anything. But the power really is in the group coaching. That's where you get the accountability and motivation to keep going when you just don't feel like it. And so these are the 3 things that if you let them get in the way of you actually making a commitment to dealing with this sugar piece in your life, it's one of those things that I truly believe that you will regret. And the sooner you actually get into it, the sooner you actually work towards this, the more satisfying, the more present you get to life, the more energy you're going to have, the less sickness you're going to have, the less mood swings you're going to have, and the more you're actually going to have the tools and resources and the mental acuity to actually chase the dreams that you have and pursue those voices of curiosity and intuition that lead you into feeling like you've got an amazing life and make you feel alive. So Gina Sauer recently, when she wrote this testimonial, she said, I recently completed the Sweet Freedom 8-week program, which also included the Sweet Freedom 30-day challenge. And I feel amazing. A year ago, even 3 months ago, this moment was not even on my radar as being possible. I've been sitting on the program for a few months, and I could not imagine myself being free from the hold that sugar had on me. I felt hopeless and defeated, and I felt like such a failure. Once I started and really worked the program, I was unstoppable. While working through the 30-day challenge, I noticed many positive changes. Within a week, I had more energy. I felt lighter. The weight seemed to drop off immediately, and I went from a size 18 to 14 in less than a month. And once again, I'm wearing clothes that have been collecting dust for a very long time in my closet. She says, I feel rested in the mornings and ready for the day instead of sluggish and wishing for bedtime before my eyes were even open. Symptoms of plantar fasciitis in my feet and carpal tunnel and in my wrist and sleep apnea have all but disappeared. Migraines that were occurring at least twice a month have been non-existent. And my skin feels fabulous, and my husband has noted on a couple of occasions that I look younger. I do not miss sugar or the way that I know it was making me feel. I finally found my sweet freedom, such an appropriate name for this program. So if you're like Gina or Christina and you are looking to actually feel better, you know that that community piece is a significant piece of support, and having direct mentorship from myself is going to shift things for you. I want you to be one of the first of the 10 people so you can get that mindset coaching session, and you can also get a Zoodle maker on top of all the other bonuses in the program. The thing is about Sweet Freedom is it will require you to be brave and courageous. But my certainty that you can do this, I promise you, is far greater than your doubt. And if I can do it as someone who is freebasing the liter of ice cream for breakfast, eating chocolate cake, and then finishing off the day with a 3-course meal with alcohol, I know you can do this. And even if your story is worse than mine, it's more dramatic than mine, I know you can do this. You just need the right tools. You just need the right support. And you just need the right guidance to help you become your own hero. So I love this little illustration from Return to Food. It says, do the thing you fear you cannot do, but feel you were born to do. The thing you most admire in others, but in your own unique, amazing, and loving way. So becoming your own hero is really about going on the Sweet Freedom journey, which is the hero's journey. And I would love to actually be your teacher in this. And so just to let you know, the link to actually go to the program, there's the 8-week online program. That's the link's there on the left hand of the, excuse me for 1 second. I put a sign on the door, but someone wasn't actually listening. Sorry about that. So the Sweet Freedom Online program, sweetfreedomlife.com/8-week-online-program. Or if you haven't already seen it, it is here in the little side chat window. If you have any questions, feel free to enter them in there before we wrap up. For staying on this webinar to this point, you can actually sign up for the 7-day challenge and get started. I just want to gift you that. If you're going to be one of the first 10 that will join us in the program, we've got the free mindset coaching, the $250 mindset coaching session that is going to be gifted to you as a bonus. And also you're going to get a Zoodle maker delivered to your door for joining us. And I'm just going to check and see if I have any questions. I don't see any questions right now. But the last piece I want to leave you with is to say thank you. Thank you for staying with me this far. Um, if you have a part of you that wants to do this program, talk to us. We are here for you. If the intuition is guiding you, a big believer of following your intuition. It is your soul speaking to you that's telling you. So don't let the head overrule you with the things that you cannot do, the things that are the blocks. As John Wooden said, do not allow what you cannot do to interfere with what you can do. And if you can do this, if you can join us for this 8-week online program, I promise that it will change your life when you show up and do the work and be part of this amazing community. And whatever you choose along your sweet freedom journey, and if you've got this far and you know that you're one of those people who knows your life could be better for not having sugar in your life, for getting to the place where you're actually stronger than sugar, if you know that your life would be better with this sugar piece handled, I would love to be your teacher, your guide, and your mentor to help you obtain sweet freedom. And no matter where you are on the journey, I just want to say thank you. There's a little saying by Meister Eckhart that says, if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it is enough. And so I want to thank you for showing up, for standing for yourself, for learning the things that it is that you need to help end your sugar cravings, the things that you can actually start doing now. And if you have the feeling that you'd like to be part of this powerful community, I would love for you to be one of those first 10 people. And if you haven't made the 10, we'll let you know, but we'd love to have you as part of this program. And so I don't see any questions. So I'm going to leave you to follow that link. It's the sweetfreedomlife.com/8-week-online-program/. And I hope to see you in the program. So thank you so much for being part of this webinar, and I wish you great success in your sweet freedom journey.